authorize.php or something. So I can make it even longer. So then you'll definitely think that you're going to icsabank.com, but actually everything before the @ sign gets ignored. And instead of ankitfaria.com over here, I could write something like this. So now tell me, where are you going? Are you going to icsabank.com? Are you going to ankitfaria.com, or where are you going? So if I send this link to you, 95% of the times most people will think that they are only going to icsabank.com. But actually, when they click on this link, let's see what happens. Let's see whether this works or not. This may or may not work. So if you notice, it actually sent me to some icsabank.com. It says apologize for the inconvenience, not, for the time being or whatever. Now let's change this a little bit. Let's not type HTTP again. Same issue. Now let's remove this whole thing and just type this. Then let's see what happens. So you're all experimenting here. Now if you notice, I've been sent to some flipkart.com website. So play around with URLs. Make it harder for the victim to figure out where exactly you're going, or where exactly the victim is going, by manipulating the link that is sent to the victim. I'll give you another example. So this was the @ sign in a URL attack, right? Let's see another example. The other example is to use an IP address instead of a domain name. So if you look at the screenshot is of the ICICI Bank login screen. But it's actually a fake login screen. So by looking at the screen, you can't find out whether it's real or fake. And if you look at the address bar, instead of icsabank.com written, there is some IP address that has been mentioned. So you can't really tell whether you're going to a real website or a fake website. So that's another very common attack, or common way in which links can be manipulated, or a common way which allows you to fool the victim into thinking that they're going to a trusted website, but actually they are not going to a trusted website at all. There's another attack known as the subdomain URL attack. So if I send you a link like the following, so which website are you going? Are you going to icsabank.com or india.com? You're actually going to india.com. So I could actually register a website like this. So I will register domain india.com, and then I create a subdomain called Asia and a subdomain of that called ICICI Bank. So a lot of people, when they look at this link, they will think that they are going to icicibank.com, but actually they are going to icicibank.asia.india.com, which means that the actual domain is india.com. There's a subdomain called Asia, and there's another subdomain called ICICI Bank within Asia. So that's the subdomain URL attack. Another common attack is a different country domain attack. So icicibank.com is obviously the real website. So I go to icicibank.com, that's the real website. But what about icicibank.tw, which is Taiwan? So if you notice, icicibank.tw is available for sale. So I could buy it. On this domain, I will now host a fake login screen. and I will send this URL to everybody. ICICIbank.tw. So people will not really realize whether it's a real domain or a fake domain. Because I could also do something like this. I could combine two of the techniques, right? ICICIbank.com @ICICIbank.tw. So now I will think that I am going to ICICIbank.com, but actually I may not go there. Actually I am going to ICICIbank.tw. So imagine how easy it is to fool people into believing that they are going to one website when in reality they are actually going to another website. So that was the different country domain attack. The different country domain attack. Now this brings me to another very interesting type of attack, which may be the last type of attack that I'll discuss today, because we have another 20 minutes or so left only. So we have seen a wide variety of different ways in which you can fool victims. So one is HTML5 full screen API attack, URL shortening websites, link manipulation. Within link manipulation we have seen 4 or 5 different types of attacks, and now I would like to talk about open redirection attacks. Open redirection attacks. Now open redirection attacks are actually extremely interesting. Let us see how. What exactly is open redirection first of all? Now websites redirect users all the time. It's a very normal thing for websites to redirect users. Simple example being, if you go to say jetairways.com, if you select India, then you are redirected to the India website. If you select Singapore, then you are redirected to the Singapore website of jetairways.com. And the fares will accordingly change. So if you go to the Indian website, the fares are shown to you in Indian rupees. If you are redirected to the Singapore website, then the fares are shown to you in Singapore dollars. So redirection is a very common thing. Websites do it all the time. For example, a user may select a particular country in a form in a website, or may enter a particular input based on which the user may be redirected to some specific website. However, if redirection is done without validation, then that open redirection page can be misused by criminals to send unsuspecting users to some malicious web page or to a phishing page. An open redirect attack is a vulnerability in which a web application accepts a parameter as an input from the user, which could be a malicious URL, and automatically redirects the user to the parameter value, the malicious URL, without any validation. So to explain this, let's quickly go through the various steps involved in open redirection attacks. Step 1, the criminal sends victim a link to a trusted website. Now, whenever anybody receives a link, they always look at the link, they analyze it, and they decide whether they want to trust that link or not. Let's assume that the victim decides to trust the link, and the victim clicks on the link since he thinks that he is going to a trusted website. However, in reality, the criminal will make use of an open redirection attack to redirect the user to some other malicious website, phishing page, or whatever it might be. Let me give you an example, after which I think this whole open redirection thing will become very clear to all of you. Look at this URL. Which website do you think you're going? If you just look at the URL, if you just study the URL, 95% of people will say that you're going to google.com. So let us see. I open up a brand new tab and I paste this link. Let us see what happens. So instead of being sent to google.com, you're being sent to ankitfaria.com. As simple as that. So let me show you the URL again. The URL says google.com/search ? Source is equal to something, hl is equal to something, whatever. So all logic says that you will be sent to google.com if you click on this link. But reality is that it's instead of google.com, you're sent to some other website. Now, you might argue that, oh, ankitphare.com I could easily make out because it's written over here. But instead of ankitphare.com, what if I wrote this link? A shortened URL. So you can always combine multiple attacks into one. So now, by just looking at this URL, nobody can really tell whether it's a whether you're going to go to ankitphare.com or whether you're going to go to some other website. Right? So you can manipulate links like that by combining two different attacks to make it very difficult for the victim to detect where you're going. Google is vulnerable to various open redirection attacks as shown by numerous security researchers, which allows a criminal to send a link to a victim which seems like a link to a web page on Google server, but actually it is a link to some malicious website. So right now if you look at this link, it looks very normal. Most people will think that they're going to google.com if they click on this link. But in reality, they're not going to Google, they're going to go to ankitphare.com. So that is why open redirection attacks can be so dangerous. Let me show you one more example. If you look at these links, where do you think you'll go? Look at all three links. Do you think you're going to books.com? Do you think you're going to google.com? Or do you think you're going to ankitphare.com? Most of you are right now saying ankitphare.com because you are sitting in a hacking class, you know that the topic is open redirection. That's why everybody thinks that, oh, yeah, of course, ankitphare.com. But think about it, the average internet user, average, think about some friend of yours who's not a hacker. When he clicks on this link, he'll think that he's going to google.com. But actually, these are all open redirection attacks which you can use to send the victim somewhere else. I'll give you one more demonstration of open redirection attacks. If you look at this URL, where do you think you're going? Is it Google? Is it ankitphare.com? Is it yahoo.com? What is it? Let's try this out. So I copy it, paste it over here. So I actually send to yahoo.com. So you can easily manipulate links, you can make use of open redirection vulnerabilities that exist on various websites to actually fool the victim into thinking that they are going to one website, but in reality the victim is actually being sent to some other website. That is what open redirection attacks are all about. I'll give you one more example. So if I send this link to you, where do you think you'll be going? You're not sure? Let me send you another link. How about if I send you this link? Where do you think you'll go? So you can really make it difficult for the victim to detect where they are going. So let's click on this link. So it actually takes you to some firoz.org website. So what it does is, it makes use of this simple link google.com/search !HL is equal to EN @Q is equal to site followed by whatever website address you want to type, and BTNL is equal to 1. Firoz has shown on his blog how it is possible to execute an open redirection attack misusing how Google handles clicks on the I am feeling lucky button. Now, whenever you're practicing these open redirection attacks, please be very careful, because when I was creating these PowerPoint slides, I was practicing hundreds of different open redirection attacks. And after some time, guess what? Google blocked me. So I got this error message which says, our systems have detected unusual traffic from your computer network. Please try a request again later. So I was blocked. My IP address was recorded at the bottom, which I have removed. But basically I was blocked from the Google server. I couldn't access Gmail, Google, or anything, any Google website for I think 1 hour or 2 hours or something like that. So please be very careful about how you practice open redirection. Now, up until now, I've shown you various open redirection loopholes that exist. But let me show you now the proper handling of a malicious open redirection attack. So if you look at this URL, where do you think it will go? Google, Yahoo, or ankitfire.com? So I would say Google, but actually it should be yahoo.com, because it's an open redirection loophole that we are using. But Google has, I think, fixed this loophole. So since Google has fixed this loophole, when you click on this link, it says redirect notice. The previous page is sending you to yahoo.com. So it is warning you that there is some kind of open redirection that has happened. So normally this is how Google should be handling open redirection loopholes, by giving a warning to the user. But most of the times, Google does not show any such warning. Even Facebook has open redirection loopholes. But Facebook is much more secure than Google in terms of open redirection vulnerabilities, because it always shows some kind of warning. So if you look at this URL, it looks like you're going to Facebook, but actually you're going to get redirected to Google. So let us try this out. When I click on this link, it shows me, it says something went wrong. Sorry, there's a problem with this link to google.com. Do you want to continue or not? So it'll ask me follow link or go back. So open redirection is actually extremely difficult with Facebook, because Facebook, generally speaking, is pretty secure in terms of the way it handles its open redirection kind of requests. I'm just going to shut down my backtrack operating system. So that's the correct way of managing open redirection vulnerabilities. One more open redirection vulnerability that used to exist in Facebook, which Facebook has now fixed. I'll just quickly open that up in Google Chrome and show you what happens. So when I click on the link, it says leaving Facebook, and then it says something went wrong. Do you want to continue, follow this link or not? So that's the right way. So if you're a web developer, if you have your own website, if you're redirecting users, and if you're worried that somebody may misuse that redirection script, then you may want to ensure that a warning gets displayed to the user whenever the user gets redirected. Even the Amazon website has an open redirection vulnerability that it has recently fixed, and it always shows you this error message when you click on this link now. Even the US government website, labor.vermont.gov, had an open redirection vulnerability which has now been fixed. Even the Samsung website had an open redirection vulnerability. Now if you click on this link, it will not kind of redirect you anywhere. Let's see what happens. So it'll just kind of show you this error, and nothing really kind of goes beyond that. So how do you find open redirection loopholes in various websites. So there is actually a Google Doc which I like to share with all of you. So just go to google.com and search for in_redirect.html space site : see if you're searching for open redirection pages on, say, samsung.com. So after site you type : followed by www.samsung.com. So that's a very simple way of using Google to search all the web pages on the samsung.com domain for any web pages that are executing open redirection, or any, actually not open redirection, but redirection. And once you find pages that are executing redirection, you can always manipulate them and to execute an open redirection attack. So we are pretty much out of time. We have only 2.5 minutes left. So at this point of time, I like to quickly recap. Today we started by discussing steganography and various types of steganography techniques that we couldn't cover the previous lecture. And then we moved on to phishing attacks, where I showed you a wide variety of different types of phishing attacks that you can execute against the victim's computer. We learned how to do phishing using Windows. We also learned how to do phishing using Backtrack. And then we discussed how to actually make your phishing attacks seem even more real, even more difficult to detect by manipulating your link, by using URL shortening websites, by using HTML5 full screen API attacks, and by using open redirection attacks as well. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. In the next class, I will continue this lecture, and we'll be talking about some advanced phishing attacks like tab napping, cross-site scripting, and then we'll move on to some phishing countermeasures that you can implement to protect yourself against getting phished. After that, we'll obviously continue discussing some new attack which we have not discussed so far in this course up until now. So until the next time, I hope all of you enjoyed this lecture as much as I enjoyed giving it. This is Ankit Fadia signing off.